Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show, where we make it our business to help you take dominion over your money and your life. Thank you for tuning in to this episode because the fact that you're here, we want you to know that we're grateful. You don't have to be here, but you are. And we are excited because today's episode, I promise, is going to help you in a major way. We have a very special guest waiting in the wings to come and share an immense amount of wisdom. We've been a fan of his work for a long time. We have purchased numerous products that his company has put on the market and helped spread the word about, and our company has benefited as a result. He is phenomenal as an entrepreneur, so much so that he's written a brand new book called $1,000,000 Weekend. He wants to help you take those ideas that's been swirling around in your head and actually turn them into a business so that you can do the stuff that you want to do and stop doing the things that you no longer want to do. Who am I talking about? Noah Kagan. He's the founder of AppSumo, amongst a whole bunch of other companies, but that's the one that I have interacted with the most. And he wants to give you the nuggets that he's learned over his entrepreneurial career so that you can start an entrepreneurial career of your own. So do yourself a favor. Get your pen and paper ready. Get your notes app open because Noah always drops gems, and I don't want you to miss not one. Let's go get Noah so we can have a conversation about how you can start $1,000,000 weekend. Hey, Noah, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Talaat. That was the best intro I've ever had, man. Thank you so much.
You deserved it, man. You've been doing a lot of good work for a very long time, and now you're trying to help people even further with your new book, $1,000,000 Weekend. But some people are being introduced to you for the very first time. Would you mind saying hello to them and kind of letting them know a little bit about what you are all about?
First off, props to all the people taking an interest in improving, right? And it doesn't happen overnight, but it does. You can get started in a night, and then by showing up and showing up and showing up and showing up, you can be at a place that you probably never thought you could be. And that's how I felt. I started out, I was a cubicle monkey. Just I hated my job every single day, and I think a lot of people out there feel that way and thought I was stuck in the middle class lifestyle, like my parents were. And just through trying, man, I got an early job at Facebook, got fired. Then I got an early job at mint.com, got fired. And then I tried so many different things. And I think I realized, like, wow, when you have a day job, you can get fired. And I didn't like the idea that one person could control my livelihood. And that got me excited to try so many different businesses and then eventually figure out how to do it over and over again and be able to launch AppSumo.com, number one site online for software deals, especially for people like you and me who we don't want subscriptions and you want good tools at good prices. So I'm definitely a customer and a fan of AppSumo.com and been able to have the business, the YouTube channel, as well as now, showing people how to do it for themselves with the book.
Yeah, our company has benefited greatly from your company, one of your companies. And we have quite a few products in action right now. I used one an hour ago that I got from AppSumo, Happy Scribe.
Oh yeah, that guy's great. Andre I hung out with him in Spain. The thing that's crazy about AppSumo, and I just got to shout it out for everyone out there. Last year we did about $80 million in revenue, which is bonkers. That's, we're a bootstrap business. That's just crazy. What I think is fascinating though is that my first sale ever was in 2010 for $12.
Wow.
And yeah, $12, just $12, right? And that's why I encourage people that the most important thing is to start, right? Because now, fast forward 14 years later, yeah, today we'll do $200,000 in sales or maybe more. But the reality was that it starts with a few dollars, and that's why people don't get to millionaires or beyond because they never make their first one. And I want to encourage people to think about that. Okay, well, what can I change in my own life today and plant that seed so I'm enjoying it in maybe a year, 2 years, 5 years plus.
Some people hear that phrase $1,000,000 weekend like, come on, man, is this some type of get rich quick? Is this scam likely? Come on, like Noah, they don't know that you started $8 million companies. They don't know that you've been helping hundreds and thousands of people start their companies. So help their stress to come down a little bit and tell them your heart behind the phrase, the content of $1,000,000 weekend.
Well, when I was starting, coming out of high school and college, and I was like, it'd be cool to be an entrepreneur, but what's the book you read? So I was like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. All right, that's kind of cool. But I was like, I like the Rich Dad. He seemed like a nice dude. Or, Rich Mom, Poor Mom. But it's like, what do you do? Buy real estate? And I was like, okay, that I don't know about that. And now I own real estate. It sucks. I hate real estate. But there wasn't really the guidebook, man. It's like, all right, well, what do I do? And let me just say right off the bat, I'm not going to get rich off this book. A lot of people that are selling books or selling courses, that's how they got rich. Like I already got rich off running businesses, and I'm still running a business to this day, and that's how I make money. I'm excited for people that want to do it for themselves. So why is it called $1 Million Weekend? One, because it's a great title, and I tested it, and it did. But the reality, though, is that AppSumo got started in a weekend. It cost me $50, and I should have spent that much. But what I'm trying to get people to recognize is that, yes, you have 52 chances to change your life. Yes, you have to make sure it's $1 million opportunity. And yes, it is actually possible if you get going and by following a system, a process. In some years, I can't promise it'll be that weekend. I think someone will eventually do it. In some years, though, yes, you will be a millionaire.
Some companies and some events, they have a section on their website or in their program, and it's called frequently asked questions. Your book has frequently made excuses because, hey, everybody's thought about entrepreneurship, and we've probably all made one or multiple of these excuses. Can you share some of these excuses and why they are just that, excuses?
When we are seen and also recognizing that we're not as unique, it's helping understand that that problem is solvable. And so calling out, identifying, the top 10 things I've seen over a decade of helping people, including myself, be seen, right? Like I don't have any business ideas. That's not true. Let's just literally, we can do one. What is something that bothered you this morning? Oh, well, yeah, I had to go to work. I had to do this. Okay, that's an opportunity. What's something on your to-do list that you haven't done for a week? Oh, I haven't mowed the lawn. Why not? Oh, I hate mowing the lawn. Oh, that's interesting. That's a business. And you start recognizing that it's just all these different excuses are people subconsciously holding themselves back because they're afraid. They're afraid of who they can become. They're afraid of facing some hard things. And they're afraid of realizing, wow, I could actually live on some other level of life. And so instead of a frequently asked questions, I wanted to people to know that it's okay that if you don't have any ideas, I'll help you there. It's okay if you have too many ideas. And that's another form of fear because you're scared of actually doing any of them. So you just keep coming with new ones, but you never get started. And you're not going to learn how to swim by putting your toe in. You have to get in the water, and then we're going to have fun swimming, which is what it should be. Like running your own business and being able to live a dream life is available. And so that is why I wanted people to feel that I know what they're going to go through because I've done it over and over and over again. I've helped people go through it as well. And just get them ready to have fun in this weekend journey.
Now, you just said something that's the other side of what is a barrier to a lot of people. You talked about excuses, but the other thing that you discussed is that fear is also an obstacle. You said there's two big ones: fear of starting and fear of asking. Can you help us understand that a little bit more?
How many books and courses and MBA programs are there about business? Right. Okay, so if there's so much out there, then how is it that not everyone who wants to have a business or have success, I would say financially, able to do it? It's a fear, but they don't call it fear. They're like, I'm not ready. I don't have funding. I need to wait. I need to watch that other video to be ready for it. And what I recognize is that there's two things. One is starting, right? Because from starting is going to lead you somewhere, but sitting and trying to be ready for it, it's very hard to build confidence. It's very hard to build momentum sitting on the sidelines. So for AppSumo, just because I got started a weekend, I could quickly see if this is something people want. And guess what? If they didn't want it, great. I can go find something they do want. So here's one thing everyone who's listening can do right now that you can realize you have the power of getting in the now, not this woo-woo book about like things. Literally right now you can do stuff and you can change your life. You don't have to worry about the how of it. You don't have to worry about domains or I don't know how to code. Let's just do one thing. Go get $1 from someone. Just text your girl, your boy, a friend, anyone. Say, hey, listen to this Noah Kagan guy. I'm practicing now, not how. And that's a mindset you can use. I don't make $1 right now. Do you think you could just support me? Just one little dollar. And that's more than most people have ever made that watch a lot of my content. And that is the first step. Because people, if you think about Airbnb, everyone knows Airbnb, $100 billion company. They started in a weekend by just sending an email. They got started. They sent an email to a conference and said, hey, does anyone want to rent our couch for $150? That's a $100 billion business today. But people have this belief that there's all these other steps and complications or gurus that are trying to convince them that they can't do it, and they can't. And you could do it right now, and that will lead you to eventually getting somewhere. Now, the second part is asking. I've interviewed a lot of billionaires, and so I interviewed John Paul DeJoria. I did Patron Tequila and Paul Mitchell Hair Care. I don't know if you're bald, but I'm
No,
bald.
I got here. but I know who he is though.
Oh, you got hair. Oh, what's that?
I know who's behind Paul Mitchell. He's got the long
Yeah,
ponytail.
yeah, the ponytail guy. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he sold Patron tequila for $3.5 billion, and I asked him,
Jeez.
"What's the one thing? What's the one thing he that's helped him become a billionaire?" He said sales, and he said he likes to be in the reorder business, which is another discussion. But you look at him, you look at Larry Ellison, you look at a lot of different people in so many different categories. It's sales, and what is a sell? A sell is an ask, and everything is an ask, right? Trying to get a wife. I had to go ask a lot of women out to find the girl who's now my pregnant baby mama, right? So I had to ask a lot of them, right? And guess what? You know what happens when you ask? You get rejected a lot, right? And I still am getting rejected a lot. And the more that you can practice it like a skill, just like think of any skill you have. The first time you're not going to be great at it, but as you practice it and then you ask and then you ask and then you ask, guess what happens when you start asking? You start getting. And so the thing that's famous in the book and I've seen change people's lives, it's silly. It's called the coffee challenge. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes, but the audience may not have.
So the coffee challenge is a really simple one. Next time you go buy anything in any store, but specifically coffee because it's worldwide, or you could buy tea or you could buy water, ask for 10% off. And then they'll say why. You say, "Oh, I'm reading this business book and they asked me to do this challenge." And then they'll look at you real silly. I did it last week in multiple restaurants and I got rejected in every single one. And I literally wrote the book on it. They all rejected me. They're like, "Why?" I was like, "I don't say anything. I just make it super. I'm trying to make it real hard on myself." And they just don't. I don't say anything. And they look at me and they're like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, thanks for the orange mocha frappuccino." And I get my orange mocha frappuccino, and then I go on with my day. And it's so stupid, right? People always have an excuse for it. Like, yeah, I've done sales for a long time. That sounds so easy. Well, just do it. Commit to it before you do anything else today, and go do that right now. And what happens is two people from the show will change their lives today by doing that. I promise you. And so they'll go and ask, and they get rejected. And I always ask them the same question: "What'd you learn about yourself?" And they always say the same thing: It wasn't as hard as I made it out to be." And these are the two things, the core principles holding people back from success, specifically in business, but really in life. And it will build your confidence by just getting started and realize you can do these things, build trust in yourself. And by practicing asking for a customer. That's literally what a business is. Asking for, a wife, asking for someone to work with you, asking someone to come on your show. And the more you get good at asking, getting some rejections, but also realizing it's not so bad and keep going, you will get to these. I can't believe the place I'm at in life. But I started years ago and then I stuck with it, which is another part we can talk about. And then I kept asking for things that I thought were good for others and myself along the way.
Let's talk about sticking with it, as you just said, because back when you're in the workforce, you kept experiencing job loss, and you get into entrepreneurship, and everything hasn't worked. Some have worked, and some have worked in a major way. But you talked about the fact of it's not just important to you outline your steps and your process, and the first one is to start it, but the next one is to build it. So that goes in line with sticking to it. Talk about the difficulties and the importance of sticking with it.
Well, so the part of Million Dollar Weekend is if you're running really fast up the wrong direction, it's going to be hard to stick with something. And so that's why in a weekend you can understand, is it $1 million opportunity? So as long as you're running, you're like, well, I know there's a future for this. Now, what I've realized and what I've recognized for everyone out here, everyone can think of a moment. I'm curious for you, Talat.
Mhm.
Is there a moment that maybe you gave up too soon, or you wish you would have just stuck with something in your life?
Yeah, it immediately comes to mind before I got a hold of my finances. When I was trying to get a hold of my finances, I read some books, like you talked about earlier, that talked about the importance of investing in mutual funds. I invested in a mutual fund, and I would get these monthly statements in the mail. And I didn't like what these monthly statements were saying, right? I thought like I would give you my money and it would just be up and to the right, but that wasn't the case. And so probably 6 months in, I gave up because I just didn't like the progress because I thought it was going to go a certain way. And of course, I would have made plenty of money if I would have just stuck with it.
Everyone has a story. My podcast I gave up too soon. Even from when we're little kids, like probably giving up on. It'd be cool to be a tennis player. I think that'd been kind of cool to be a professional tennis player. And the coolest part about business is one, there's no discrimination on your ability, right? Because anyone worldwide can do it, right? You don't have to actually be tall or short or skinny or anything. And the other part that's interesting about business is you only need one hit to win. Like, can you imagine that? If you just go to baseball and you have one hit and you're like, I'm done for life. That's the only sport that one hit wins. Mark Zuckerberg hasn't had a great hit since 2005. He hasn't. Name one thing he's actually come up with that's worked. But you know what he's done? He's stuck with it for 20 years, whether you like him or not. And so the question is, how do we not quit too soon? And what I found, especially for early on, is the law of 100. And so specifically for me, and what I've seen others have an impact on, is how do you then create a destination so you can quit afterwards? And that's a little counterintuitive, but the law of 100 is committing to at least 100 of something. So it could be 100 days, 100 posts. It could be 100 phone calls, 100 emails, 100 asks, and then you quit. And same with the podcast. I wish I would have did 100 episodes. Or for the personal finance thing, it sounds like for you, it's like, can I do 100 months of it? And then you quit. Great. And it gives you some destination so that you're at least sticking with it. And let me give you another example that's crazy, frankly. If I kept my job at Intel, which my salary was $65,000, which is pretty good. This is 2005. Jeez, it's old. And if I would have kept that job, the first 6 years of AppSumo.com, I would have made more being at Intel. I would have made more if I just would have kept my job, gotten promoted, got raises, standard stuff. But because I stuck with AppSumo and I hired a team, we built some processes, not extensively, but I hired a team and I stuck with it. Year 7 of AppSumo, I finally made, I think, $500,000. And then it started eclipsing it. So then now every year it's a 7-figure salary, mostly through profit share. Meaning if we do really well, I get some profit share. But the point being, though, is that for many years, it wasn't doing amazingly well. It was doing well, but through sticking with it, now the compounded business is giving these returns. So people are very familiar, especially with your content, compounded interest with stocks and investing. But if you compound on your business, meaning you keep slowly working on it over a very long period of time, then those returns will start producing significant dividends. Was it going to be 5 years? Maybe you'll do better than me. But now, today, I'm very, very grateful that 14 years ago, Noah got started and then figured out a way to stick with it, which was, for me, this law of 100 is that way.
What take us into that moment, because it took you 7 years to hit a number that was like, oh, right. So what was going on internally, year 1 through 6, that said, nah, I got something. Nah, this is going to work. I'm not quitting. Help us understand what it took for you to keep your feet firmly planted in the journey.
Yeah, and I've seen this. I've seen people who've read $1 Million Weekend. They actually get it going. I met someone yesterday. Her name is Mackenzie. It's called MaryMakery.com, and she had a day job at Warby Parker. This eyeglass company, and she dreamed of being an entrepreneur. And to me, risky was having a day job. That always seemed risky, but not living the life I wanted did never seem risky to me. And you don't have to quit your day job. I don't encourage that. I encourage you to get to your freedom number, which is the amount you need to quit your day job, then quit, which is what I've done a few times. And so with her, what was really interesting, and this is common, I asked her, I said, all right, you had this dream. So her business, and what she loves connections. And so she thought, hey, I really love to make greeting cards, like Hallmark. So she started, and then she started asking people in her zone of influence. And fast forward a year later, I talked to her recently. I was like, well, how much money have you sold in greeting cards? Guess how much you sold in 1 year of greeting cards?
50,000.
Have you talked to her, by the way?
No.
That's exactly right. That's literally like dead on.
I was sitting there, I was like, what's the number? 50.
But I was like, in paper greeting cards?
Right.
Like that's bonkers. And look, Hallmark, I don't know if it's $1 billion kind of business or how, but it's definitely a worldwide global brand that, I'm sure is doing pretty well. And so is she making Warby Parker money? Not yet. But she's already kind of thinking, hey, I'm going to start another business. I was like, why? The best business is the one that works. And so for myself with AppSumo, finding something that works and that has the opportunity to be $1 million of a business for yourself is doable in a weekend, but sticking with it is the thing that will take time. And so the way we've operated AppSumo, and I copied this from Amazon, is every year in Q4, so our operating income of the year is 10%. We try to make at least 10% operating income. And in Q4, I try to spend it all, so that I have a really, really big next year. So this year, 24. And then in this Q4, I'm going to try to spend it all. So 25 is even bigger. And we did that year after year after year after year. And then at year 6, toward year 7, it was like, okay, we can't spend all this money on ads. We take the whole team to Mexico. We give distributions to the team. We buy more servers. We buy partnerships. We have sponsorships. So at the end of the year, it was like, okay, there is now more money than we could even spend. I'd like to have some to take off the table so that I can not have to worry about money myself. And so that was around year 6 or 7. But definitely people could beat me. I hope people beat me in becoming a millionaire faster than that.
Talk about something you mentioned just a few minutes ago, the concept of looking for your number, the number that'll help you realize what you're aiming for as you're starting this business. Can you unpack that concept a little bit and help and give us the formula equation?
Do you think most of your audience has a family, or is it like
Absolutely.
couples?
Oh, it's absolutely. Our survey says that the average listener is married with 1.5 children.
1.5.
The math,
That's
the
like
math is
that's like
mathing.
survey jokes. That's like a survey like data analyst joke. Uh, so what's fascinating about that? So I'm about to have a child, and my biggest fear is not being available to him, and that's what I'm. Being an entrepreneur, I can lean towards that. But the reality is, it's very hard. Do you guys have kids?
3, 14, 12, 10.
3. Oh my god, how do you have time to even do this, my man? Respect.
Well, what structure? In our early years, we were not as structured. We were doing interviews on any day of the week. Anybody was available. Like now, it's like certain days of the week
Good for you.
and structure.
So the freedom number, and I have a question to come back on for you. The freedom number, especially if you have a family, especially if you're busy, especially you're at practice, especially your kid's crying, one of your other kids is sick, you don't have a lot of time. You might have a weekend, and even in your weekend, maybe you only got a few hours. So that's why everything in the book is fast and quick. But the freedom number is that if you have day jobs, which most parents do have, it's hard to quit that day job. And then how am I going to support my kids? How am I going to afford colleges or wherever they go to schools or food? And so understanding what's the minimum amount you can feel comfortable quitting and then working towards that gives you some destination that's not millions of dollars, because most people can live actually amazing lives for a lot less. I know I have. And having that freedom number, which for me, and what I encourage people to think about, is what's the basic minimum amount you can have to live, for savings and travel, or whatever is important to you. But for me, it was, all right, how much do I live for like food and housing? How much do I need for saving? And how much do I need for travel, entertainment stuff? And it was $3,000 a month. And I was single at that time, and I was living on floors. That I lived on floors for a year to save money. And knowing I had that number gave me clarity about, okay, let me try a lot of things. And that's something that's not recognized in business, is that you have to keep trying. It doesn't always work the first weekend, right? I've done so many businesses that no one's ever heard of. You've heard of AppSumo, and it's so cool you've bought products from that, but halldrop.com, meetfam.com, sumo-market.com, email badge, shorty SMS, freecalls2.com, masturbationsock.com, like the amount of business, peoplereminder.com. I have had so many businesses that no one's ever heard of. And that's also part of what's led me to finally find something that people did want and then stick with for a period of time. Now, I want to come back. So I think everyone should be very clear on the freedom number. Write it down, put it on a piece of paper, and see it often. Now, I'm curious for yourself as well. Did you have a number, or when did you feel, wow, this business that I'm doing about content is finally taking off? And how long did that take? Because I think, people seeing these examples for you, for me, and for others helps them really, really absorb and understand.
You're going to be disappointed in me, Noah. I'm going to let you know right now, okay? Because I had some psychological stuff to overcome. So we started the business. I was still working. I was a teacher, and my wife, we were just starting a family. We got to the point to where, because our content is based on financial freedom, we were totally debt free, paid off the house, saved up a year's emergency fund, and I was still scared to jump. Why? Go back to what you just said. Wife, 3 kids at that point. I'm thinking, what if it doesn't work? And mind you, it was already working, Noah. But what if it stops working? What about
Yeah.
insurance? Things like that. I had to really, really, really wrestle with. And eventually I got to the point to where what happened was, to be straight up, my 9 to 5 became untenable. It became so obvious that I no longer had the grace to do the 9 to 5 portion, that the job that I was great at all of a sudden started crumbling and falling apart. Like, yo, I can't do this anymore. I literally, it was in February. It was in February. I called my wife. I said, I think this is my last day. And she said, well, that's it then. And so it just had to get to a point of frustration for me to do what I knew I was supposed to do. And I'm sorry to disappoint you. I didn't have $1 Million Weekend to read at that time, but I got through it.
No, I mean, you literally are, one, so much respect and props for what you've already accomplished. Like, that's so amazing. And that is $1 Million Weekend. It's finding the thing that can then create the lifestyle that you want to live. And it doesn't happen overnight, but you can start it overnight. And how long from when you started the content to when you were able to quit in February? How long did that take?
So that I actually quit. So that would have been year 6. Yep.
That's
Just
kind
like
of
AppSumo.
kind of
I mean,
just like
I
that.
wasn't doing AppSumo numbers, but it's the
Yeah.
same timeline.
And what's fascinating, and this is counterintuitive, is a lot of people, let's even take AppSumo as an example, have side hustles at AppSumo and they don't quit AppSumo. Like Amy, I was just on she was on a team call like an hour before. She has a salon and she does flowers. And she also runs our customer support. Nick, he does a marketing agency and he has a dental whitening clinic in Dallas. And he runs our head of growth marketing. And, another great example, Steve Chu, my wife quit her job.com. I love this guy. Steve kept his job for years while he had a side hustle that was making 7 figures. And he enjoyed it. Right. And at some points, I don't think you have to do one way. Find the way that works for you. One thing that we do at AppSumo, and I think that everyone can copy, is test it. You don't have to go and do this crazy investment. Test it. Try not working for a week or try doing it for a month and see how that goes. The other thing with AppSumo, I would say, and this is something I break down in the book, is are you in a market that's getting bigger and bigger? So am I that much smarter than other people? Not really. Am I having some crazy network when I got this all started? No. It's available for everyone. But I did pick an opportunity that 100x or 1000x in terms of the size in the past 14 years. So I was in the tidal wave, just having a little surfboard out there, and that produced great results for me. So it's being mindful, a little bit of what's a fad, but what is something that you can I can see, and there's a process to okay, this is going to potentially be around or get even bigger as I keep working on it.
And you mentioned something that was even a light bulb for me when I was reading your book. You said, a lot of us are like trying to start a small business. You say we should try to start small experiments. That's a different mindset, and I actually like exhaled when I read that. Can you unpack that concept and that way of thinking?
Yeah. I mean, I started when we were chatting. People think, well, I want to build a big business. It's like every big business started with one customer. And people are like, oh, I gotta, do all these things, funding, or I gotta read more. But it's like, no, you just get one, go help one person. Just go help one person. And guess what? You're trying to do something that you can help yourself even. For me, I still love good deals. And what I've noticed with business is people create this big fear monster that they just become so afraid of. Oh, I gotta do this big business. I gotta ask people now and I gotta start. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's just do an experiment. And experiments are supposed to fail. And that's okay. And then when they fail, what happens? You say, oh, well, I thought this was going to happen. I tried this. Here's what happened. And what do? You learn. And then you try another experiment. And the whole, I have a Jewish mother who I'd say is a professionally nagger. She can nag you to death. And that's never exciting. And so I think with business as well, you don't want to be afraid in all these things. It's like, how do I have excitement? How do I try new things out? And an easy way anyone can do that is talk to one person today and say, I'd love some feedback. I'm working on this experiment. Here's the business idea. Maybe it's going to be a content thing. Hey, will you be my guest? And it's an experiment. And if they say yes, who knows? Or if they say they're interested in buying, say, hey, would you mind putting a down payment or a refundable deposit right now? You're just getting feedback. You're just experimenting. If they say no, ask them why not. And more people will be surprised how people are excited to see them succeed and excited to support them than they expect. But you have to get started. And when you change it from this, I have to do this big, big, scary thing to, I'm going to try an experiment. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's okay. It creates less pressure on yourself to succeed, which makes it more, frankly, enjoyable and also more likely you'll do it.
Now, the book is $1 Million Weekend. So you're teaching us how to go for this in like a 48-hour period. Are we looking for certain types of businesses? Are we looking for businesses that we're passionate about? We're looking for to close gaps, answer questions. How do we do this in 48 hours, Noah?
Yeah, I know. What I've recognized, and let me tell you about Jake. So Jake lives in the north of Texas. He was a subscriber. Sounds like a lot of your audience. He's got 3 kids, day job, wife, and he's had the same business idea for 2 years, which is what most people have had. And he's had a dream to have his own, not necessarily just business. No one cares to have their own business. They just want to have a dream life, right? Which could be, everyone has their own definition of that. For me, it's living in Austin, living in Spain, having control to be a time millionaire, so I don't have to do meetings before noon. That to me is rich. And Jake spent 2 years thinking about it. And so I flew Jake down. He came and lived with me for 48 hours, and we read the book together. I tucked him into bed, gave him his milk, we read the book. And part of the thing that we've highlighted a little bit is, because you don't have a lot of time, especially if you have a family, you have to be very intentional about what can work and what can't work. So the 2 key parts for Jake, one, he got excited about golf. That was an area that he's a big golfer. I don't know anything about golf, so I wouldn't start a golf business, but I do a lot of cycling. So that might be a business I'm in. And so he went on a golf trip years before, and he's like, I went on a golf trip and that was really fun. I'd love to do more golf trips for people. Okay, cool. That's an interesting opportunity. Look at something you did before you want to do again, or something that doesn't exist that you want to create, or look at things, even for you, I would say, look at things you're spending your money on. Those are all opportunities, because maybe you could save money, or maybe you can run a business on those things. And what we did is we looked on Google Trends. You can use ChatGPT. You can use Google Finance as well. You can also use Facebook ads. And what you're really trying to see is this a market that's getting bigger, flat, ideally not declining? And how much are people spending on golf? And how much are people, potentially you want to see how many people will spend on a golf trip, just to give you an idea. Because if you're going to work on it, why not at least work on the thing that has the $1 million opportunity? And that's what you're asking about. Now with Jake, I don't think he's on social media even, which is a lot of people, right? Or they have they're not trying to be a social media influencer. And so very quickly we have to see, okay, how's the business model? And again, don't have a lot of time. So I don't want to try to get an MBA, business model, COGS. Like, I don't need any, if your thing has acronyms, you're doing it wrong. And so Jake was like, all right, well, if they're $5,000, which I was like, wow, I would never pay $5,000 to go golfing with a bunch of people. But for golfers, if you're really into golfing, it's a no brainer, because you go to golf, you get access to the courses, you do cigars, you do whiskey, you drink beer. I don't know, not my thing. I like margaritas and watching people hit the driving range. That's my jam, or Top Golf. And so he did the 1 minute business model. He said, hey, if they're $5,000, I'll pay for hotels, food, and the golf course, and then people can just take care of their own flights. I'll make $2,000 for each one I sell. Like 2,000, that's 400 people. If he sells, I think it's like 400 trips, that's $1 million business. That seems pretty doable. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but 400 trips. And that's not including other revenue dials that he can adjust. And I break down at milliondollarweekend.com. There's like all these templates and stuff. People can see how to change it. But that seemed doable. So it's like, all right, cool. Let's go validate it. Now there's 3 ways you can get customers. I'll give you the 2 harder ones that I don't necessarily recommend. One of them is posting on marketplaces. So you could post on Etsy, you could post on Reddit, you can post on Indie Hackers, you can post anywhere where there's customers raising their hand. But these are strangers. I always try to start my businesses within either areas that I'm skilled in, or where I have zones of influence, where there's people in my network that are excited. The third one you could do as well is landing pages and ads. So again, I don't like it. And I did my own $1 million weekend a week ago, and I just didn't have time for it because I had to do things that worked. So the number one way to do it is pre-sale. So can you get pre-orders for something you're developing? And so Jake he printed out a Google Doc. He just made a 1-pager with pictures of the golf course, food, whiskey, and cigars. It said, Jake's trips, $5,000. And what we did then was made a list of 10 people he's golfed with in the past 2 years. And then we practiced and worked on, all right, you're just going to call these people as an experiment and ask for feedback. And there's a very easy formula that you can use when you call these people, which is LOT. You call them and you listen to them. So that's L. And you listen, and what you're trying to understand is problems. So, hey man, we went on a golf trip. How was the golf trip? Oh man, that was really fun. Yeah. Did you like it? Yeah. What'd you not like about it? Cool. When's your next golf trip? Oh, I don't even have one. Oh, you don't have one. Is that something you'd be interested in? And again, don't sell. If you're trying to convince someone to buy your thing, you're not validating the business. You're bothering them. I think that's a very key point. A lot of times as people try to start businesses, they're like, how do you know when it's working? It's like when you're not having to convince someone to give you money, when they are excited to give you money. So, hey, oh, it sounds like you actually like this trip. Now give them an option. Hey, man, I was thinking in April, I'm going to do a trip, 6 guys. I think sounds like it's something based on what you've told me would be awesome. It'd be $5,000, which I know is a lot, but it sounds like you've paid for that before. What do you think about that? Dude, that sounds amazing, right? Great. Transition. All right, cool. Can you Venmo, PayPal, crypto, Western Union, cashier's check, money, whatever it is, a 10% refundable deposit right now? Yeah, no problem. Let me get my Venmo out. Now, it's not always like that. And because we practiced asking in the beginning, you're going to get rejected. And guess what? That's okay. How come you're not interested in doing this right now? Finances are tight. Understand. So what price would you pay? And again, thinking of it just overall is you're not pressuring this person to buy anything. You're trying to experiment and get feedback, and you're trying to have a conversation with someone you know. And ultimately, Jake at the end of the 48 hours had 5 sales. He made $500 deposits. As well, he had a partnership with this, it's called Guys Trips. And I think today he's already closed one of the deposits and he's booking all these different venues. But what most people do in business is they create a plan, they read more books. They're like, I'm going to go buy the course and get the hotel room. I'm going to get all these things and then try to sell it. So they take a solution and try to find a problem. But I'm saying you don't have to do it that way. And Jake proved it. And just to give you a counter example to make it even more obvious, lawn care, I think, is a big business. And so I thought, hey, I'd like to have a lawn care business. Let me go try it. And that was an idea that the audience suggested me to start. So I knocked on people's doors and tried to sell lawn care. I could not sell one of my neighbor's lawn care. So either I suck at selling lawn care or it's just not really painful. But then I started thinking, well, what are other things that are really annoying? And I hate using DocuSign and I hate HelloSign. I hate paying for it. So then I started asking people, hey, what about this idea? And then literally people were like begging to give me money. And in 24 hours, I sold $3,000 of profit of a DocuSign alternative. And I'm giving that to a guy named Garrett to build it. And in the next 30 days, those customers who pre-ordered it are now going to have the product that I've promised them.
What in your experiment? 10 golf buddies, 10 doors with lawns that could be cut. You said that Jake, he got 5 out of 10. So that was, yeah, we should go with this. You got straight rejected on the cutting of the grass. You like, so this ain't it. Is there a certain range within that experiment that tells you it's a green light or a red light?
Yes, you're looking for at least 3 customers. And I've done, thousands, tens of thousands of people I've seen do this. And what happens is if you're having struggles to get 1 in 48 hours, it's going to get harder. It's just, and how do I scale it? You can't even get 1. Don't worry about 10. And, a lot of times 1 is going to be like your husband, your friend. But, I did a jerky business years ago to show people this example, which went on to sell for 6 figures, a jerky. Yeah. And there is a lot more stuff about complexity, which we don't even have to get to because there's a lot more things that you can do that are going to be simple to work. But the jerky one, my brother said no. My mom said no. My brother, these people are into health too. And I've noticed just 3 is a really interesting cutoff mark if you can get that. And again, the promise of payment is not a payment. That's a rejection. But many no's are not yet. So you do have to ask people. And if they say no, okay, put them on the list for later.
Do you document, or when you have all these ideas in your head, are you writing them down? Because you said, hey, you know what? I think lawn care would be good. Tried it, didn't work. Hey, you know what? I do not like DocuSign. I need to come up with man, you know what? I need to create some jerky. Like, how are you coming up with these? Like, what's the mental exercises you're doing? What's the written exercises you're doing to get these things out of your head and as possibilities for these small experiments to take place?
And what's fascinating, and again, I have to say, because it's so important, these small experiments of getting a $12 sale for AppSumo, and at AppSumo, it's software deals. So my first deal, I put a PayPal button on a page and I posted on Reddit, hey, I got this deal. Does anyone want it? Sold 200 codes. And how I gave out people the software, I just emailed them via my Gmail. Today, we have a 20-person engineering team, but you have to get started and then it leads to those other places, but you have to make sure it's something people really want. Now, with Sumo Jerky and even this DocuSign alternative and the lawn care, to make it hard, I had the audience suggest the businesses I do. I don't encourage people to do that. I don't think you have to make it that hard on yourself. But here's an easy one. I'll just give everyone a very easy one everyone can copy and literally just do it right now. Text one friend you respect and say, hey, if I were to start one business today, what business do you think you'd see me starting? Just send that text, send that DM, slide someone DM right now, and you'll be surprised that someone will literally be, I thought you were a great teacher. Maybe you could teach me about golf. Hey, I've always liked how you made cookies. Hey, you seem really good at sales. Hey, I really like when you did that crochet thing. Right. And those, by the way, you can start in these and that could lead to other stuff. Right. It's probably not going to be the thing that you start with, but you get going, it will lead you to those places. There are other ways in the book. I think we have probably 6 different methods. It could be more that'll lead you to at least 10 different ideas. The number one way that I do like thinking about it is I break my day into like morning, afternoon, and night, and just think about the things that irritate me, or think about things that, oh, I had to drive. Like that's how Uber started. Uber's $100 billion company because Travis and Garrett out in San Francisco didn't like waiting for their taxi. Then like, oh, maybe there's another way we can solve that. That's an annoyance in your day, and you just start thinking about it. The more important part, though, is take these ideas, put it through the process so you're not running fast in the wrong direction, and then take action to actually experiment with the idea. Jake said this line to me that stuck with me. And I said, Jake, why do you care to have this business? He said, one, I want to be a good example to my children. And I respected that a lot. And then he said, secondly, I don't want to live a what if life. I was like, oh, that stings. That stings, And I meet these people, and even there's no that it's still not too late. I met someone yesterday, and oh man, I wish I had more like money and time. It's like, okay, you don't have to live a what if life. Like you can make that change now, and it maybe won't be immediate, but you can get that started. And we're going to stick with these things, and in some period of time, yeah, you won't be wondering what if, because we almost always regret the things we did not do versus the things we did do.
100%. So I don't need anybody in the audience living what if life. So tell us in more detail about what they will find in the pages of your new book, $1 Million Weekend, and where they can pick up their copy.
$1 Million Weekend, they can grab it at milliondollarweekend.com or wherever books are sold. Send me a photo too, man. I'm so excited to see people reading it, and not more importantly than reading is take action. There's a lot of challenges in the book that are fun and silly. There's a lot of stories in the book. I hired literally one of the best business writers of all time named Tal Raz. He wrote Never Split the Difference to support me in this, because I am good at starting businesses and I'm an okay marketer. I'm a great marketer, but he's a great writer. And so I was able to get that support. This is a self-help confidence book wrapped in business. And what's wrapped in these pages is people finding out who they are and realizing how much better they are than they even expected, or maybe that they always thought. And I know it was for myself. I thought I couldn't write this book. Like I thought I couldn't work with Tall, and I didn't think I could actually help people. And I felt really, insecure, even though I've done it. I've worked for the best and I've done it time and time again, but facing my fear of putting this together, helping people, literally thousands of people that have been through the beta of the content. I'm like, oh, wow, it works. I see it work. And recognizing that is the book itself. It's people getting this book, reading it, and be like, yeah, I can do it. I can build confidence in myself of what I can create in my own life.
Love it. And we'll be sure to have a link to the new book inside the episode show notes. All you have to do is click the link and you'll be able to get your copy. Before I let you go, I think there's an important question I need to ask you to help concretize this. And I think it's an important aspect of your own entrepreneurial journey. And it's your psychology, your attitude towards money. You talked about the fact that you slept on floors and couches to save money. And I've heard you out of your own mouth. It's not Talaat. This is Noah saying that Noah is cheap at one season in his life. I was in the audience when you were doing a keynote at FinCon. You were giving away your own money from the stage. How did you develop that? How has that helped you on your entrepreneurial journey?
I grew up with Jewish parents, which is a very weird dynamic with money and making money and saving money. And we have generational trauma from, the past with Jews. And so it's an interesting dynamic. And what I even recognize, everyone has their own money relationship. And I think it's being mindful about what that relationship is. And I would say mine was pretty negative. Me feeling not worthy about myself, making money but not enjoying money, feeling like, can I finally have nice things? Do I deserve nice things? And a lot of it was through therapy, just talking about it, literally paying. And I had to pay the therapist to talk to me about my own money, which is kind of ironic, and testing things out. So when COVID happened 3 years ago in 2020 is when I finally started testing, experimenting, enjoying money, like flying first class, buying a Rolex, having a $15,000 bicycle. And I used to think materialism was really evil and it won't make you happier. And I just found that not to be true. And having the option, whether as an entrepreneur, whether literally the best return on, index funds is like 12% a year on average ever. The upside of entrepreneurship is unlimited. And so having that option to spend money on things you want is amazing. And I will tell you, I went last weekend to my old house, and it's an 800 square foot house. The walls are cracked. The floor is cracked. There's like cockroaches in it and stuff like that. And I think it also made me think, wow, that's what I thought of myself. It's like I'm small and I'm not worthy, and that is, as I started looking at that, and it made me appreciate how far I've come for myself and realizing that everyone can do that too. And I'm very happy now spending money. And I would say one of the things beyond therapy that helped me change that was having a yearly goal around my relationship with money. So the goal that I've had historically for the past 3 years is either to donate my money, spend it on others, or spend it on myself. And by having that goal, I definitely am like, well, by doing that goal, I'm like, wow, this has been cool. How much better money has made my life. So doesn't mean I'm still not practical. I think the word cheap has negative connotations. I'm
You
frugal
said
or
that. I just was
practical.
repeating what you said.
I know, but I'm saying I prefer the word value driven, because I think cheap also connotates negative. But my girlfriend loves the Dollar General store. She's from Venezuela. She's like, baby, this Dollar Tree, I can't believe it. And I go to the dollar store, I'm like, you know what? Pretty damn great. Or Costco to get clothing. It's you buy some of these brands on D2C, the Shopify brands, it's like $300 for a jacket. I go to Costco, it's like $20. Like, nice jacket. And so I would say there's still, we all still have things to work through, and not necessarily bad, but I will say overall, there's so much talked about making money or saving money. There needs to be some more, I would say, mindfulness or just awareness about how can we enjoy it, whether you have a lot, because I've had a lot for some years, and it's just only recently I'm like, I'm going to enjoy it. And you can enjoy it even with a lot less. It's also finding those things you enjoy. Like, I bought a flashy car. It's like orange Jaguar, and I sold it in 30 days for a loss because I just don't care. I have a 2000 Miata. I have a scooter. I have a Tesla, and I'm like, I can't believe I get to have these cars. So I would say for everyone out there, it is nice to at least have the option of being rich. So create that for yourself.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, I know plenty of people are going to want to keep up with you after this episode. So how do they find you on the internet streets?
Go to milliondollarweekend.com. Everything's out there. You can search Noah Kagan. More for everyone out there. I love how you're encouraging people to take power for themselves and their personal finance. And I definitely think entrepreneurship, it is that best return on it.
100%. 100%. Noah, can't say thank you enough for taking time out of your super busy schedule to come by the His and Her Money Show and drop all these nuggets of wisdom on us today.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show is complete. And I need you to do yourself a favor. Pick up Noah's brand new book, $1 Million Weekend. And don't just read it. No. I need you to read it. I need you to follow the instructions and make it a reality for yourself. Do me that favor. Let's all create these $1 Million weekends, and let's change our lives and take dominion over our money and our life. That's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Until next time, peace.